What's up everybody, this is Ven and I welcome you to another MOC Spotlight where we take apart what you build. And for today's episode, we'll be taking a look at Shadowstep V2, created and posted to our message boards by Jayfa. Now before we get started, let me remind you of my method of reviewing, which involves a point system that is based on 3 fundamental attributes: the overall appearance of the MOC, the build of the MOC itself, and the concept and ideas behind the MOC's creation. Each of these qualities will amount up to 10 points, leading up to a final score that will be determined at the end of the episode. And please remember that this is all based on my opinion. So let's get this started. Now right off the bat, I gotta say, this thing reminds me of Toothless from the How to Train Your Dragon movies, combined with Shadow the Hedgehog for some reason. I guess it's because it's so dark and edgy looking, but as a matter of fact, I can't even tell you what this thing is even supposed to be. But what I can tell you is that it's this pretty cool looking black creature with patches of transparent blue and these back spikes that actually remind me of a xenomorph. And I think that might be the best comparison I can make, considering the shape of the head and the long, windy tail. It's a really interesting design for a MOC, and I can't say I have any big problems with it, really. But that doesn't mean I haven't found anything that I take some sort of issue with. Granted, some very small things like the fingers, they look a little odd, kind of pudgy, not really fitting the rest of the MOC. Also, the round plate things on the top of the hands look a little weird. And then the Visorak foot on the back of this MOC has a really different texture to it than the rest of the figure has. Like, overall, this figure is pretty smooth looking. Then you look at this Visorak foot and it's got these ridges in there. It doesn't really seem fitting. The toes of this guy look pretty weird. The end of his tail looks kind of off. The little small bits of solid blue that can be seen in the hands and a bit of the chest don't go with anything else really, because every other blue part of this MOC is transparent, and there's not really enough of this solid blue in the rest of the MOC to say that it's consistent. Then he's got this random black crossbow on his forearm over here, like what? At this point, it's like cherry picking, because despite all these small things, I still actually really like how the MOC looks. The color scheme is fantastic. It's got some charm to its design. It's like this little mischievous thief creature thing. At least that's what I think of. I actually still don't know what the heck this MOC is supposed to be, but it looks cool. It's also got a pretty good build. Most of it is a custom Technic structure with a few Bionicle and CCBS elements thrown into the mix, making for an incredibly posable figure and so well balanced that it could even stand on the edge of its tail without any support except for this wall behind it, but still an incredible feat nonetheless. It's also worth noting that the figure lacks any sort of built-in functions or play features, which I don't think is really all that necessary in the case of this figure, but I will say that there is something that feels a bit empty about it. There were some cool ideas implemented into the design of the figure, but in the end I'm not sure what it's supposed to be. In the very original topic where this MOC was posted, aka Shadowstep V1, the builder indicated that the character was supposed to be a sort of silent assassin, and back then the figure actually had a sort of weapon to begin with. Or is it now? Is it supposed to be this crossbow? That's kind of tacky, don't you think? Like, wouldn't it be cooler if he had some sort of wrist-mounted hook shot? That's pretty stealthy, right? Or maybe an actual bow and arrow or crossbow thing that's appropriately sized. Not as subtle, but probably would have looked cooler. There could have been a nice function thrown in there, get a working crossbow going there. That'd be great. See, that's already 2 ideas right off the bat that could have been pretty interesting and would have brought this MOC up a good bit in my book. See, in cases like this, I like to say that there's untapped potential, where the MOC is pretty cool as it is, but it could have been much cooler. So with all that said, I'm ready to move on to the scores that will wrap up this video, starting with the appearance, which I give this MOC a 9 out of 10. Overall, I think this is a really cool looking MOC, and while it's got a lot of design elements that I do really like, especially with the color scheme, there are some really small flaws that I did find with it. Nothing that make too much of a big impact really, but still could be fixed. In terms of the build, this MOC receives a 9 out of 10. Solid build, custom, well articulated, what else can I really say? Well, I guess one thing. A sort of built-in function would have been nice, but that's okay. In terms of the concept, this MOC receives an 8 out of 10. Because as I mentioned earlier, I do see a little bit of untapped potential for this MOC in terms of truly representing the ideas that went into it. Because as it is right now, it does look cool, and it is a well-built figure, but it still feels a little bit empty to me. Again, I do really think that this mini crossbow on the wrist should have been replaced with a larger crossbow that probably would have had a built-in function. Because if this guy is supposed to be some sort of stealthy assassin, shouldn't he at least kind of look more like one instead of some sort of alien thing? Now, I know a lot of these points I made earlier can be a little bit subjective, but again, this is just based on my opinion. And with that said, we still got a pretty high final score that adds up to a 26 out of 30. So great job to you, Jayfa. Congrats for making it onto the MOC Spotlight. I do hope to see more out of you, maybe a Shadowstep V3. We'll look forward to that if that'll become a thing. And my support extends to the rest of you viewers. Please feel free to post your own creations to our message boards at board.ttvchannel.com. And if I find it to have some sort of interesting or creative qualities to it, I may actually feature it on the MOC Spotlight sometime in the future. But you won't know. There's no other guarantee that you'll make it onto the MOC Spotlight unless you make it visible to me by posting it on the message boards. So, as always, hope to see you there, and if not, I thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time.